At 90 years old, when I look back at my life, I don't regret the moments when I failed. I don't regret the times I lost money or the times I made wrong decisions. What I truly regret are the habits I carried for years, quietly, slowly, like a poison that grows inside you without you even noticing. Because life doesn't break you in one day. It breaks you through habits. Small habits that feel normal at first, but later become the reason you feel empty, stressed, and unfulfilled. Today, I want to share with you the habits that destroyed my peace for decades. If you leave them early, you will save yourself from a lifetime of regret. The first habit is comparison. For most of my life, I kept comparing myself with others. There was a man in my neighborhood named Mohanlal. We started our work around the same time. We were both working hard, both trying to build our lives. But slowly, I started watching him more than I watched myself. He bought a car before me. His house was built before mine. Every morning I would wake up and somehow end up thinking about him. I would look at his success and feel like I was falling behind in life. And that feeling slowly became poison in my mind. What I didn't realize at that time was that comparison doesn't inspire you. It destroys you. It steals your focus. It steals your peace. And most importantly, it steals your own growth. Because when you are busy watching someone else's life, you completely forget how to build your own. Years passed like this. I wasted so much mental energy thinking about where others were going, instead of focusing on my own path. But life has a strange way of teaching lessons. Today, when I look back, I understand something very clearly. Mohanlal's success had nothing to do with my journey, and my journey had nothing to do with his. His car broke down after some years. His house was later rented out. But the work I built with focus and patience is still running, even today, supported by my children. That is when I realized the truth. Comparison is a thief. It doesn't just steal your happiness, it steals your potential. You don't need to run at someone else's speed. You don't need to live someone else's timeline. You only need to stay consistent with your own direction. Because the moment you stop comparing, you finally start living. And that is where real life begins. The second habit that slowly destroyed my peace was always trying to explain myself to everyone. There was a time in my life when I believed that if people misunderstood me, I had to fix it. I felt like I needed to prove myself, defend myself, and explain every single action I took. If someone said something wrong about me, I couldn't let it go. I would go back, sit with them, and try to make them understand my side. I would bring logic, examples, reasons, everything I had. I thought if I explain enough, they will finally see the truth. But I was wrong. There was one incident I still remember very clearly. A relative once told me that my shop would never succeed. He said it directly, without hesitation. Those words hurt me deeply. Instead of ignoring it, I spent hours trying to convince him otherwise. I showed him my plans. I explained my efforts. I gave him reasons why I believed I would succeed. I even tried to prove it with logic and numbers. I spoke for almost 3 hours, but he still didn't agree. And after all that effort, I went home feeling completely drained, empty, tired. Not because of his opinion, but because of my reaction to it. The next day, something strange happened. That same relative had already moved on. He wasn't thinking about our conversation. He wasn't analyzing my explanation. He had forgotten it completely, but I hadn't. I was still carrying it in my mind. That day I learned something very important. People who truly care about you don't need long explanations. They understand you without effort. And people who don't care about you will never be satisfied, no matter how much you explain. That realization changed my life. I stopped trying to convince everyone. I stopped defending myself in every situation. I stopped wasting energy on people who were not even thinking about me. Instead, I focused on my work. Because work has a voice of its own. Results don't need explanations. Success doesn't need arguments. Truth doesn't need long speeches. Words disappear into the air, but actions stay. And slowly, I understood something even deeper. When you keep explaining yourself to everyone, you are not actually defending your truth. You are losing your peace. Life becomes lighter when you stop trying to be understood by everyone. Not everyone deserves your explanation. Not everyone deserves your energy. Some people will misunderstand you no matter what you say, and that is not your responsibility to fix. Your responsibility is simple. Do your work, stay honest, and let time speak for you. Because in the end, life doesn't remember what you said. It remembers what you built. The third habit that I deeply regret is saying, "I will do it later." This one habit quietly destroyed some of the most precious parts of my life. There was a time when I was around 40 years old. My mother was still alive then. She was getting older, about 70, but her hands still carried the warmth of the meals she used to cook for me when I was a child. I wanted to spend time with her. I wanted to sit with her, eat her food, listen to her stories again. The same stories she used to tell me when I was young. But life was busy. There was my shop, my customers, responsibilities, money, problems. Everything felt important. And every time I thought about visiting her, I would tell myself the same thing. I will go later. Later when things settle down. Later when I have more time. Later when work becomes easier. But that later never came. And one day, when I finally decided to go and see her, it was too late. She was gone. I still remember that moment. It felt like the ground disappeared beneath my feet. All the time I thought I had was gone. All the conversations I postponed were never going to happen. All the meals I planned to eat with her were never going to be cooked again. That is the truth about later. It feels harmless in the moment, but it quietly takes away everything that truly matters. Money comes back. Opportunities sometimes come back, but time never returns. And the people you lose, they never come back either. For a long time, I lived with that regret. I would think about the stories she wanted to tell me. I would imagine her sitting in the same place, calling my name. But imagination cannot replace reality. It only makes the pain deeper. That experience taught me something I will never forget. When you have time for the people you love, don't delay it. When you feel like calling someone, call them now. When you think about meeting someone, meet them today. When your heart tells you to do something meaningful, do not postpone it for a perfect moment. Because perfect moments do not exist. Life does not wait. Time does not pause, and people do not stay forever. We always think there will be another chance, another day, another time. But life is not that predictable. Everything can change in a moment. And the saddest part is, we realize the value of time only after it becomes memory. So if you are listening to this, understand this deeply. Later is one of the most dangerous words in life. Do it today. Speak today. Meet today, love today, because today is the only time you truly have. The fourth habit that slowly destroyed my peace was holding on to anger and resentment. For many years, I believed that if someone hurt me, I should never forgive them. I thought forgiving meant weakness. I thought it meant letting them win. So instead of letting go, I held everything inside me. I kept every insult, every betrayal, every broken trust stored inside my heart like a heavy burden I was carrying everywhere. There was a childhood friend of mine. We grew up together, studied together, and shared countless memories. I trusted him completely. But one day, in a business matter involving land, he made a decision that hurt me deeply. It wasn't even about the money anymore. It was about trust being broken. That moment changed everything between us. I stopped talking to him completely. I told myself I would never forgive him. I believed I was protecting my self-respect, but I didn't realize something very important. I was not punishing him. I was punishing myself. Years passed. Then more years passed. Slowly, that anger became normal for me. I stopped questioning it. I just carried it as part of my life. But inside, it kept growing like a silent poison. Every time I thought about him, I felt the same pain again and again. Even when life was good, that one memory kept disturbing my peace. Meanwhile, he continued his life. He moved on. He lived his days. He probably stopped thinking about it long ago, but I didn't. And that is the strange truth about resentment. It doesn't stay with the person who hurt you. It stays with the person who refuses to let go. After almost 20 years, I received news that he was very sick. Something inside me pushed me to see him. I don't even know what it was. Maybe guilt, maybe memory, maybe time finally softening my heart. When I met him, there was silence at first. No words, just years of distance sitting between us. Then slowly, emotions broke through. He apologized. I looked at him and something inside me finally released. For the first time in 2 decades, I let go. Not because everything was suddenly perfect, not because the past changed, but because I finally understood that carrying anger was not protecting me. It was destroying me. We spoke that day. We shared old memories. We laughed a little. And in those moments, I realized how much time I had wasted holding something that could have been released long ago. He passed away a few months later. And after that, I kept thinking, what if I had forgiven earlier? What if I had not wasted so many years carrying this weight? That is the truth about anger. It feels powerful in the beginning, but in the end, it only leaves you tired. Forgiveness doesn't change the past, but it frees your present. And sometimes that freedom is more valuable than being right. The 5th habit that slowly destroyed my life was trying to make everyone happy. For most of my life, I believed that a good person is someone who never upsets anyone. So I kept adjusting myself. I kept bending my decisions. I kept saying yes when I wanted to say no. At first, it felt like I was doing the right thing. People appreciated me. They praised me. They said I was kind, responsible, and understanding. But inside, something was slowly breaking. Because every time I said yes to others, I was saying no to myself. I stopped asking what I actually wanted. I stopped thinking about my own dreams. I stopped listening to my own thoughts. I started living a life that looked good from the outside, but felt empty from the inside. One day my wife asked me a very simple question. She said, "Do you ever think about what you want in your own life?" And I had no answer. That silence was louder than any words, because in that moment I realized something painful. I had spent so many years living for others that I had completely lost myself. And the truth is, you cannot satisfy everyone. No matter how good you are, someone will still criticize you. Someone will still be unhappy. Someone will still expect more. So I was suffering for something that was never possible in the first place. That day, I made a small but powerful decision. I stopped living for approval. I stopped making choices based on fear of judgment. I started choosing what felt right for me, even if not everyone agreed. And something surprising happened. The world didn't collapse. In fact, life became lighter. I also learned something very important about complaints. For years, I used to blame everything: circumstances, people, luck, timing. But complaints never changed anything. They only drained my energy. The day I stopped complaining and started asking, what can I do right now? My life shifted, slowly but surely. And finally, I understood the most important lesson of all. Your life is not built in big moments. It is built in daily habits. The way you think, the way you react, the way you spend your time. These small patterns decide your entire future. And most regrets don't come from what we did wrong. They come from what we kept postponing, what we kept tolerating, and what we kept ignoring. Now, at this stage of my life, I have nothing left to prove, no one to impress, no race to win. Only one message remains. Do not lose yourself while trying to live for everyone else. Because at the end, you will not be asked how many people were happy with you. You will only be asked whether you lived your own life or someone else's.